I don't think he should have played. I'm just going to come out and say it, and I know that you could say that's 20/20 hindsight. I thought that whole business, I shouldn't say it, that whole business, because that's infused. That's my New York upbringing. When you say that whole business, you're inferring that the business that I'm about to unfold really was hanky. A lot of people saw Tua Tagovailoa stumble around on the turf in Miami on Sunday and wonder, how the hell did he come back in that game? Well, the Dolphins and Tua said afterwards it wasn't his head hitting the turf that caused him to stumble and then go into the locker room for evaluation. No, it was his lower back. Anybody who has back problems, and you know, Jason Feller, you're our resident back problem expert here. Anybody who has back problems, I've had back problems where I just suddenly hit the floor. You can't get up. And I haven't been thrown down to the floor by somebody much larger than me wearing pads. So
that was violent.
And it was a terrible moment to see him stumble around like a punch-drunk fighter. And he came back in the game, and he looked terrific. And then after the game, he looked completely with it. And as Kirk Herbstreit of the Amazon broadcast said last night in the third quarter, and as Ryan Fitzpatrick mentioned after the game, that they saw Tua this week and thought he was totally fine. And any medical concussion expert will tell you that, sure, looking in somebody's eyes and seeing potentially them not there, that is, in fact, something you look for. It is a symptom that the NFL and their independent neurologist that's at each game does take a look for when evaluating somebody on the spot for concussion. But in my days, and again, that's the issue, is everybody's an armchair doctor here trying to measure all of this from afar. Everybody who I've spoken to over the 20 years of me covering the NFL says somebody gets a concussion, you sometimes can see them recover pretty fast from it. But the problem is once you've been concussed, the next time becomes easier for you to get concussed, and it becomes worse. So that's why it's important that, sure, even if you have been concussed and you do look fine and you do talk fine and you walk fine and you feel fine, you need to sit. Your brain has slammed against the side of your head. You got to sit. And Tua didn't sit. And he played. And we saw a horrible, horrible reaction to his head hitting the turf. Frightening doesn't do it justice. I mean, his fingers, the way that they were, and I tweeted out, can any doctor tell me why his fingers are the way that they are? And I got a lot of, it's a fencing response, which is the response when somebody gets concussed, and I've known this for years, your arms go up in the air. And, you know, throughout the years, it's been told to other players, hey, when you see your teammates' arms go up after they've hit the ground, don't grab and pull them up. Yeah. They're not asking for your help. That is an involuntary reaction. Your arms go up in the air when you've been concussed. You have a brain injury. So leave your guy on the ground until you say, you can communicate. I've seen fencing responses. I've never seen fingers in the way that we saw Tua's.
No.
I mean, that was frightening.
Yeah. Big time.
It was stomach turning. It was awful. He's carded off. He didn't give a thumbs up. What the hell was that all about?
Yeah. Really scary stuff.
And then, thank goodness, the reports came in that McDaniel spoke with him before he left, and then he goes to the hospital, and he's getting medical attention. His parents are there. Then you hear he's going home on the team plane. All right. After the game, here was Mike McDaniel, the head coach. And again, he, along with Tua, saying all week, not the head, it's the lower back. He's fine. So he was asked, if he would play a player that was concussed. obviously, you know what his answer would be. And the setup to this is McDaniel adamant that he would not put a player in harm's way. This is what he had to say.
I don't think that an injury from last week made him fall the same way this week. But yeah, I do not have any, absolutely zero patience for or will ever put a player in a position to, for them to be in harm's way. That is not what I'm about at all, and no outcome of a game would ever influence me being irresponsible as the head coach of the football team. Every single NFL game that is played, there's an independent specialist that specializes in the specialty of brain matter. So, for me, as long as I'm coaching here, if there's I'm not going to fudge that whole situation. If there's any sort of inclination that someone has a concussion, they go into the concussion protocol, and it's very strict. If people don't vary or stray, we don't mess with that. Never have, and as long as I'm the head coach, that will never be an issue that you guys have to worry about.
I love Mike McDaniel. I love him. And he did say at one point, however, in his opening soliloquy that, thank goodness, it's just a concussion for Tua. And that when he said that, I cringed, because a concussion can last a very long time. And again, if you have one, the next one's easier to get, and it's worse to get through. But he was just basically saying, lucky it's just a concussion, and that's not some sort of spinal injury that leaves him paralyzed. I think that's what he meant.
I think so.
And he is right. There is a protocol. And I know the people in the NFL front office who are freaking out today, and their hands are wringing. They're the ones who are saying, we're putting those weird-looking caps on the heads of linemen during training camp.
Should we use those in games?
I don't think so, because, again, this is a game, and we watch it. We all know this can happen on any snap, on any play. And it is possible that Tua had a lower back injury on Sunday, didn't have a head injury, and then just got awfully concussed last night. I don't, from my 2 cents and from where I sit, I don't think that's what happened. And I think the league has to take a look at the protocol, which is set up during the game to make sure that if somebody doesn't have it, he's quickly returned to play, because they want to get him out there. Players want him out there. Coaches want him out there. Trainers are looked at saying, can my guy go? I mean, everything is geared towards getting the guy back on the field. And the thing I don't understand is if there was an evaluation and an investigation, the Players Association saying they're going to sue or what have you last night, I know I'm kind of paraphrasing, but if there was an investigation as to whether Tua was concussed and got put back on the field, how is he back on the field if that wasn't concluded by the time he's put back on the field? I know it's a short week, but maybe we needed, double secret protocol? I don't know, like an extra protocol plus, where if there is an investigation launched or necessary or deemed necessary to take a look at whether a player was concussed and is ready for his next game, that in a short week, it's too bad. Got guys not getting back on the field. Doesn't matter how much he's smiling around the facility or clear-eyed or talking or walking or feeling well. That player is not cleared until this independent study is completed and a report is placed on the commissioner's desk or whoever's in charge of this area of the business, and give it to the Players Association too. They didn't say anything before the game. They shouldn't be out there. Best of my knowledge. Maybe that's what we need to do. We need to take a look at way players are cleared during the game. And it has vastly improved. How many times do you see in a game where your team's trying to go fast, right? Quick snap, trying to go. Wait a minute, play's blown dead. Why? What's going on? Somebody called timeout? Is it a flag? No. Somebody upstairs is buzzed down. That safety's got to come out because he looked a little wobbly getting out of the pig pile. We've seen it. That did not happen when I first started with the NFL Network and started covering games. That did not happen. You know? So it's getting better, but I think we need to reevaluate how to evaluate somebody in a game. And we as fans need to reevaluate the way we look at it. If the guy can't return and you're like, crap, my backup looks awful, too bad. Got to rethink the way we watch the game, too. Too bad. There's no such thing as just rubbing dirt on it anymore because what we saw last night was frightening. Holy crap.
I think it was just a coincidence, Rich, but also at the same time yesterday, Concussion with Will Smith was playing, and I happened to turn it on it was just like, wow.
Well, it's a different time, and again, there were a lot of dramatizations in that as well, and I've heard, and then there are a lot of where not so much. It's a different era. There are different ways of looking at it from the league, and there has been a culture change to a degree. I've seen it, but something happened this week that feels off to a lot of fans. And then it was confirmed when you saw Tua look the way that he did on that turf last night, and it was frightening.